This video is all about explaining how to teach this book in an efficient way and engage students as they're learning with us for a whole hour. So this is essentially a vocabulary book. It includes vocabulary words, of course, grammar, and reading comprehension. Each book contains 15 lessons, and I'm going to move over here to explain. So for teachers, we are spending 2 hours finishing one lesson. So it's very simple math. We have 15 lessons times 2 hours equals 30. So we'll be spending 30 lessons. The kids will sign up 30 lessons to finish the whole book with us. So the very first hour, we focus on vocabulary and questions. And then the second hour, we focus on reading and comprehension questions. So the homework for this book is pretty standardized. On the first hour, we have our homework for students, which is asking them make a sentence for each vocabulary word we have learned in class. So this allows students to reuse each word they have just learned with us and create a little story for each word. And they will send the homework to teachers and it will grade and edit for them. So the second hour homework, so once you're done with the first part, you're on your second hour with this class on this book. You would ask the students to read this story. Well, so here's the thing. You have already read the story with the students in class. So as homework, you're going to ask them to reread it basically and come up with one question for each paragraph. So they have to read the story and think of their own questions for each paragraph. And then they're going to write it down, that question for each paragraph, and send it to you for grading. Okay, so that's the basic homeworks and the timeline for finishing this book. So for some of you who have already taught this book, you probably have noticed it's kind of challenging to engage students because I'm going to scroll down right here. As you can see, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. So basically, I think there are 10 words, 10 vocabularies per lesson. So this is how I would do it. So for each lesson, let's just assume you have 4 students, right? So you're going to ask the students to read each word. So you're going to have one student to read word, and then read the word, and then read everything they see or everything about this word. Okay, and then you rotate to the next student. So each student will have the chance to read several words, everything about it, including the definition and example. So that's the first round. How do we make this round interesting? What I would do is I would use this website called pickerwheel.com. This website allows us to be creative. What we do is, so I have just a little bit of example right here. So I would put in all of the students' name here. So let's just say I have students A and B, C, and D, right? I have 4 kids. And then you can add something fun into it. You can add break, like I break. So I'm going to put it right here. So I break, right? So, and then you have stretch break, and you even have water break. You can be very creative here, okay? Or you can have the winner winner chicken dinner, which means if whoever spin this one and everybody takes a break. So you can make it really creative. So what I would do is, I'm just going to delete some of these. This is for the part 2. So for the name part, right, you just spin the wheel, and then you will have a person or the break pop up. So let's see. You spin the wheel. All right, so we have student B, right? So let's just pretend the student's name is B, and then we'll say, "Hey B, congratulations! You are going to read the next sentence, or the next word, right?" So for this part, you can count one. Basically, is for the website to remember that it has already B has already been selected. So it will kind of prevent this person be selected over and over again. So you can count one, and then there will be a one here. All right, and then you go back to the to the PDF, and then you have, okay, B, it's your turn to read the word fatal, for example, right? And then the kids read it, and then we move on. So we move on to the next students. So the wheel decides who to read, and then ever so often you have an eye break, stretch break, water break, or everybody break. It's up to you. Okay, you can be creative here. So once we're done with this part, you might ask me, hey, do we have time to discuss right here? The answer is it depends. If you have a faster class, if everybody is if everyone is understanding very well, everyone is on board, everyone's paying attention, yes, you will have time to discuss. You can even change the question a little bit just to make it fun, right? You can say, hey, describe the feature of, describe your favorite feature of your mom and tell us why you like it so much, right? So you can be creative with the questions. But if you happen to have a slow class, a lot of kids are already struggling with the content as it is, you probably wouldn't have time for this part. So this discussion part is just the cherry on the top. You don't have to do it, but if you have time, go at it. So hop on down. We're all done right here, right? So now it's the question. As I said, this is all included in the very first hour. You got a lot to go. You got question from A all the way to D, I believe. If not E, we'll see. So for the question part, it's so easy to get a student to make them feel bored, because you're just gonna be like, okay, Tom, A, you're question 1, and Jack, question 2, and the rest of the kids will be like, okay, this is the perfect time for me to check on my phone or just play with my toys, right? So you want to have them all engaged. So what you do is you use the picker wheel. I even nicknamed this wheel as Mr. Wheel, right? So you can give it a personality. So you go back to Mr. Wheel, and what you do is you you just put in the question here, right? So what I do is I would normally ask each kid to answer 2 questions instead of 1, because you kind of don't want to spin the wheel too often. It's time consuming, and it kind of where the I don't know if the interest will get worn off, and they'll be like, spin the wheel again, right? So you can put in random number. It doesn't have to be, you can even do 6 and 9, whatever you want, right? So it depends on how many questions you have. So we only have 10 questions for A, so you can redo all of them. And then you say, okay, all right, I'm just gonna go Tom first, right? So this one is for Tom. So you spin the wheel, and then let's see. Congratulations, Tom. Get to have an eye break, right? It depends. So, and then you count 1, so you know this one has been picked already. So then you go with the next student, right? Eventually, each one of them will be answering 2 questions at a time. And then for that is my little trick for the question part. Okay, for the question part, and you go all the way to D. Yeah, I'm right. So D here. So obviously they will answer it. Sometimes they will give you a wrong answer, and that's when you correct it and let the whole class take a note. So a little bit of, I forgot to mention it here. So let's just assume Tom got selected by the wheel, right? Tom is answering question 1 and 2. And then before Tom answers the question, you tell the whole class, you say, okay, everybody, you're going to be the judges of Tom's answers. So once So let's just say once Tom say, oh, tentacle is a stream of liquid under pressure, and then you can circle it. And then Tom says a vessel is a tube-shaped object, right? So you circle the answer Tom picked, and then you ask the class. In this case, I would mute the whole class. You ask them, hey, what do you think of Tom's answer? If you think both of the answers are right, give me 2 thumbs up. If both of them are wrong, give me 2 thumbs down, or 1 up and 1 down. It depends on the answers Tom gives us, right? So at this part, you are really engaging the whole class to really pay attention to what Tom has to say. And for those of the kids who refuse to give you the feedback, you're going to have to unmute them and ask them to answer the questions after Tom. So that will be a little bit of quote-unquote punishment that will just keep them motivated to pay attention to what other kids have to say. All right, so that's this part, right? So we're all done with the question. You use the same technique with these questions, and then you're here. This is the second hour, which is the second time you see the kids. You will be teaching the reading. Okay, so for the reading part, you do the same thing. You use the wheel, and for each paragraph, you put in the student's name here. You delete the questions, and you put the student's name here, A, B, C, and D. Let's just assume these are the names of the students. And then same thing, you spin the wheel, and then let the wheel decide which student read the first paragraph, which one read the second and the third. Okay, so every time you finish reading this paragraph, you will remember the homework. You will ask the kids, hey, what kind of questions do you have for this paragraph you just read? You can even switch it up if you notice when students A is reading the first paragraph, students B, C, D are playing. And then you might ask, hey, B, what do you think? Do you have any questions for A according to the paragraph he or she just read, right? You're trying to be creative and engage everybody. So now every student should have chance to read at least 2 paragraphs at the end of the class once you finish this one. And then it comes down to the question. Same thing for the question, right? Very similar. You go back to wheel, you put in the questions in here, and you are spinning the question out for each kid to answer, and you're helping them. For this part, I would absolutely write it down, students' answers on the screen. So it will be easier for the whole class to follow what that kid has just said. And then you can edit if the answer is wrong based on the answer the student gave you. So it's more efficient. The students will have more of a visual aid as to, oh, which part did I answer wrong, or which word did I spell it wrong, etc. Okay, so that will be all for the Wordly Wise 3000. It's a pretty interesting lesson to teach, really.